All right, guys. So this is my last video, and I'm going to again try to make it quick. But I just talk so much. So the last thing I want to talk about is just some of my opinion, some tips of or my opinion about ways we can enact change in America, which I've been saying repeatedly through these three videos. But just some actual final tips. And obviously, I know that this is not the magic wand for change in America because America is built upon oppression and things like that. And I mean, change happens, but it takes a long time. And we just need to start taking steps towards making actual change. So I didn't really touch on the Black elite that much in the last video, and I want to start there, and then we'll move on to a couple of other things. And so what I've noticed from being in school and going to a primary white institution and being a part of large scale professional African American organizations is that a lot of discussions are had about the issues that we face or our counterparts face, and we sit amongst ourselves and we talk about it. But when we actually talk about the actual work that it takes to actually change things, very little is done. Like we have a community service event at a conference, we collect some cans, or we will again have open debates and have open discussions like I am now. But the actual change that is needed, we kind of fall short. So I'm going to read you some excerpts from a article I found about from a Black professional. It's entitled "Blacks Remain Oppressed, but Not by White Americans," and it just says, that affirmative action has made a huge difference in America, but what we end up having is students who have the money for SAT prep courses and private schools and the content call needs admissions to go, to actually we have broken barriers, but ironically, while we have more doors open in America, we still have the complaints that many white Americans are still systematically oppressed. And again, they are, but we do have, it's not on as large of a scale. We have broken barriers. And the problem is that because we broke those barriers, people forget, or we weren't allowed for what was going on before. We weren't there for when schools were segregated and we couldn't go to those schools, and we had to fight to be able to go to those schools. So now we're there. We feel like we've got our foot in the door. We feel like we made it. And so people are not as apt to get off their cushy lives and actually get out there and make a change for people that are still being affected. The people who are not there, because they don't see that we're too quick to advance and forget. That's what we do, and it's a problem. So she said it's time for Black liberal leaders to stop hiding behind racism and admit that our priorities as a community have become our greatest hurdles to achieving long-term success. They must stop dismissing successful Blacks, regardless of party affiliation, as exceptions in an otherwise victim-rich race. They must stop blaming white Americans for the sins of the past and set goals for the futures. Most white Americans live in the 21st century, and it's time for more Black Americans to join them. Now, obviously, this is some of the words that this person said might offend people, and I'm not going to say I agree with this person 100% because I don't think we should forget about the past. Like I said in the last video, I think the past, knowing about the past, helps us understand what we need to do in the future. So I'm not going to say we should forget. We should stop being angry. I'm just saying that currently we need to remember that we still have a ways to go. And although it seems like everything's okay and it seems like we made it, that's not necessarily true, because there are people who are struggling every day. And so we really do need the input from our true Black leaders, our members of that are the perceived Black elite, the educated members of our society. We need for you guys to come back and mentor and help people. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. I think the biggest dismissive quality of these situations is I don't see race. I'm not racist, and racism doesn't really exist as much as people are trying to say it does, because I don't see race, or I'm not racist, and it's not, and I'm whatever race, and I have to, I suffer injustices as well. What that is dismissive as hell. Like it's dismissive as hell, and it sweeps under the rug the struggle that people are actually suffering every day, because it is happening. Just because you don't experience it and just because you don't perpetuate it does not mean it does not take place. And you don't see race, like, really. So when you look when you get a job application, if you're a hiring manager and you see Shaquanda Renee Jackson, what do you think? Do you think, oh, that could be anybody? That could be, I mean, that could be a Mexican person, that could be a white person. It's embedded in our minds, like it's a part of our culture. So for you to say you don't see race, it's just, it's BS. And I'm gonna put up a piece of a video by a YouTuber who speaks about this a little more. And this is a Caucasian woman, and she talks about people say they don't see race and why it's ridiculous. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'll play that video for you. 1 second.
Another popular comment found on discussions about racism is, well, I don't see race. Really? Because I do. In fact, it's one of the first things that I notice about a person. It's what they look like. However, I don't then make judgments about that person because of their race. I don't treat them differently or assume certain things because of their race. See, I don't have to ignore someone's race in order to treat someone like a fellow human being, which is usually the translation I hear when I hear a usually white person say the phrase, well, I don't see race.
I like that a lot because it does speak to what we think when we hear someone say that they don't see race. I mean, it's impossible to not see race. Again, it's impossible. So just stop. What you need to do is open your eyes and see race and understand the issues that impact people from other races, and then help to enact change. So maybe you should start seeing race and not make assumptions about a person because of it, but understand that there are things that people from different backgrounds face that you don't face, and you need to understand that, so therefore you can see and help enact change and know that there is a difference from what you see every day. That's just all I'll say about that. In our own community, I think it's important for us to educate our children and go beyond our public education system, because they're doing the bare minimum. And they're not preparing our kids to be world leaders. They're not preparing our kids to be the kind of people we need to have in our communities to actually make a real difference. They're doing the bare minimum. So, I mean, I literally went to my daughter's school at one point, and at parent conferences, and I saw that the school, and this is not a terribly urban district. This is somewhat middle ground, not upper class, but it is not a very urban district. And I discovered that the school district's goal for her reading level and her math level was below the national average. So you have the national average is for kindergartners to be able to view 27 numbers. That's the national average. That's what kindergartners can do. My school's goal was for the kindergarten to be able to recognize 18 numbers. So even if my child was to be at the top of her school, like if she was the number one student in her school, she would still sit below the nation's average of students. So you need to, and I know it's hard. I know that it's tiring. I know that you want to be able to depend on your school. You're not a teacher. And so I don't have the skills really to teach my kid a lot, but you need to understand that the school is not going to do everything. So you had to put in work as a parent to educate your child about this world, to educate your child, period, about general studies. And you need to encourage education, encourage the importance of education, because in this country, that is what makes a difference. It's unfortunate that we have to take on massive amounts of debts to pursue our education, but that's what makes a difference. And I'm not saying we should teach our child to be oppressed. Like I think that we should teach our child truths about the world, but I'm not for this whole discussion about, well, teach your child that the police are the police, and so they can't talk back to the police, and unless they want to get murdered. I do believe, and again, murdering somebody is not okay, but I do believe that we should educate our children and let them know what's really going on in the world. And I do think we should teach our children to respect authority figures. I don't think people should be popping off at the police just because they're police. Like I mean, there's different circumstances for everything, but is authority, and we need to teach our children the general respect of authority. But I'm not for teaching my child like you can be killed at any time, so you need to know that the world's not for you. And so, just be ready. Just know that your life is not as important as everybody else's. So just be prepared. I'm not going to do that because I think it's important to teach my child equality and teach my child self-respect and teach my child that she can be anything she wants to be. So teaching my child that her life doesn't matter as much as anybody else, as somebody else's, is counterproductive to me. So I'm not going to do that. But I do believe in child rearing and raising your child and not leaving it up to the system, because the system is, again, doing the bare minimum. We see that in our employment. We see that in our public service aspects. They do just enough. And it's not enough to help pull you out of anything or to excel you past any level. It's just enough for you to live and die at the same level. So I would urge people to utilize community resources. I would urge people to, to start Black businesses and generate money in our own economy. Here in Kansas City, we do have a lot of companies. Kansas City, Missouri CDE helps minorities start businesses. They also give education classes to help people know what it takes to have a successful business. And so, ask questions, talk to people, and figure out what's out there for you to help us. Activism. I think people who understand what's going on and people who see things from different lights from the outside looking in need to be active and need to help enact change. We need to be we need to vote. We need to help get people to vote. We need to be at the city hall, and we need to be at the state buildings saying that this is wrong. That's where change comes from, and not with guns, with words and mentorship. You have to give back. So help youth understand what it takes to be successful, and show people what you did to get where you are, and help them get there too. We have that quote that, the infamous quote about the bootstraps and people pulling themselves up from the bootstraps. But Martin Luther King said it also elegantly, which obviously you can see that I have a love for Martin Luther King Jr. He said, it's all right to tell a man to lift himself up by his own bootstraps, but it's just cruel it's cruel just to say that a bootless man, tell a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. Everybody doesn't have boots. Okay. So this mind frame that you have about people being able to be successful and what it takes to be successful in America, there are a lot of other factors, and so it takes a lot more for some other people. Okay. Oppression is real. Oppression is a real thing. And so people have to overcome a lot more at sometimes to be successful. So you need to understand that. I'm going to put a link down to a website that talks about the keys to freedom, opportunity, and security. And it talks a lot about, SNAP benefits and things like that, and how, these things are, it's just enough. It's and people think that this is causing a huge effect on the economy, but there are way bigger factors in this economy. We spent $700 billion in rescue money to help companies. And that's $700 billion. So there are a lot of other factors that affect the economy. So pulling away things that help social services programs is not the way. We need thriving wages, not mere living ones. We need workers, not employees. We're workers. We need to focus on the working poor, because there are people, there's this myth about people just, being on welfare, and that's why they're this, that's why they're that. But there are people who work hard every single day, work much harder than me, and they are to be poor. They need more opportunities. We need more discipline and self-reliance. We need to give people the tools to be successful rather than just handing them money. We need to give people tools. So obviously these few things are not, going to make the hugest difference in America. I mean, and it's pieces to the puzzle, but social work teaches us that we need 4 or more spheres of influence to enact change in people. And so, I named a couple, but it takes, government influence, community influence. It takes people's self, making the undesirable desirable, and showing people why it's important to change and fight for change, and not just because something bad happened, but actually day to day showing them what they can accomplish and how they can accomplish it. So I'm open to discussion, and I do want to hear your opinions on it and what you think it would take to peacefully make change in America. Thank you for watching, guys. And again, please comment, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.